The convoy drifted through empty space like broken pieces of a shattered dream. 43 ships, each one carrying families who had lost everything. Taman stood at the navigation console of the flagship, staring at the star charts that showed nothing but closed doors. Every system they approached had turned them away. Every plea for help had been ignored. He was 24 years old, though his people measured time differently than most species in the galaxy. 3 months ago, he had been a student studying stellar navigation at the Central Academy. Now he was responsible for finding a home for 15,000 refugees who were slowly dying in the cold void of space. "Another rejection," said Hyojin, entering the bridge. The medical officer looked exhausted. Dark circles shadowed her eyes and her hands trembled slightly as she held a data pad. "The Centauri Collective won't even respond to our messages anymore. They've blocked our communication frequencies." Taman felt his chest tighten. The Centauri had been their best hope. They were known for their humanitarian values, their advanced medicine, their open immigration policies. If even they wouldn't help, then who would? "How many sick today?" he asked quietly. Heejin's voice was barely a whisper. 17 new cases of radiation poisoning. The medicine is almost gone. The food synthesizers on ships 12 through 18 are completely broken now. We're sharing rations across the fleet, but... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Taman looked at the view screen showing the other ships in the convoy. They looked so fragile against the darkness of space. These vessels weren't designed for long journeys. They were emergency evacuation ships meant to carry people from planet to orbit in times of disaster. Now they had been flying for 3 months straight, their systems breaking down one by one. He remembered the day they fled. The sky had turned red with fire as the Dominion fleet destroyed everything. The Dominion was a coalition of 12 powerful species who controlled most of the known galaxy. They had decided that the Keltharian people were genetically inferior and didn't deserve to own planets. Just like that, with a vote and some official documents, they had erased his entire civilization. The attack had been systematic and cruel. They destroyed the farms first, then the water treatment facilities, then they poisoned the atmosphere itself. They didn't use quick weapons. They wanted the Keltharians to suffer, to die slowly, as a warning to other lesser species in the galaxy. Only 43,000 people had escaped. 43,000 out of 2 billion. "Sir," called out the communications officer, "we're receiving another broadcast from the Galactic Council." Taman felt a spark of hope. Maybe the council had reconsidered. Maybe someone had spoken up for them. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was cold and official. "This is Council Speaker Vren. The motion to grant protected refugee status to the Keltharian survivors has been rejected by unanimous vote. The Keltharian species is hereby classified as non-protected entities under Article 7 of the Galactic Charter. Any nation or individual who provides aid to Keltharian refugees will face economic sanctions and possible military action. This is the final decision of the Council. There will be no appeals." The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. "Non-protected entities," Hyojin said softly. "That means anyone can kill us legally. We're not even people anymore in their eyes." Taman wanted to say something encouraging, something hopeful, but the words wouldn't come. He had been trained to navigate through stars, not to lead people through hopelessness. A small hand tugged at his sleeve. He looked down to see Bora, a 6-year-old girl who had lost her parents in the evacuation. She spent most of her time on the bridge now, silent and watchful. She hadn't spoken a single word since boarding the ship 3 months ago. She held up a drawing she had made. It showed a planet with 2 suns and flowers growing everywhere. A child's dream of home. Taman knelt down beside her and managed a smile. "It's beautiful, Bora. We'll find a place like that. I promise." She looked at him with eyes too old for her age, then walked away silently. "Don't make promises you can't keep," Hyojin said, but her voice was gentle, not angry. "I have to believe there's somewhere for us," Taman replied. He stood and returned to the navigation console. His fingers moved across the holographic display, searching through uncharted systems that weren't controlled by any known government. Most of these systems were marked dangerous or uninhabitable. But there, at the edge of the map, he found something interesting. An uncharted yellow star with several planets. Long-range sensors showed at least 2 worlds in the habitable zone. "What about this one?" he asked. The science officer leaned over to look. System 749J, never been explored by any Galactic Council species. There's been some strange energy readings from that area, but nothing conclusive. Could be natural phenomena, could be primitive civilizations, could be nothing. Do we have enough fuel to reach it? Barely. It would be our last jump. If there's nothing there, then we die trying instead of giving up, Tae-min said firmly. Send word to the other ships. Plot a course for System 749J. The crew moved to follow his orders, but he could see the doubt in their faces. They were jumping into complete unknown territory, using the last of their fuel, banking everything on hope. Maybe that was all they had left. Hope. Heejin stood beside him as the fleet prepared for the jump. You know this is crazy, right? I know. We could be jumping into a star, or a black hole, or straight into Dominion space. I know. But you're doing it anyway? Tae-min looked at the other ships in the convoy. He thought about the children like Bora who deserved a chance to grow up. He thought about the elderly who had survived 2 billion deaths and deserved to die in peace, not in the cold void. He thought about Hyojin, working herself to exhaustion trying to save people with medicine and equipment that were falling apart. We didn't survive this long just to give up now, he said. Heejin nodded slowly. Then let's see what System 749J has for us. The fleet began the jump sequence. One by one, the ships activated their faster-than-light drives. The flagship would jump last, as was traditional. Tae-min watched as 42 vessels disappeared into the strange space between stars. Ready when you are, sir, the pilot said. Tae-min took a deep breath. Engage. The universe twisted around them. Colors that didn't have names flashed past the view screen. Time became meaningless. Then, with a jolt that shook the entire ship, they emerged into normal space. Alarms immediately started screaming. Multiple contacts, the sensor officer shouted. Dozens of vessels, weapons charging. We're surrounded! Tae-min's heart sank. They had jumped straight into a military fleet. The view screen showed ships unlike any he had seen before. They were sleek and powerful, covered in weapon systems that were all pointing directly at the convoy. A transmission came through in a language the computer didn't recognize. Harsh sounds, sharp consonants, nothing like the flowing words of council species. Translation? Tae-min asked desperately. Working on it. Got it. They're saying, unidentified craft, this is Earth Defense Patrol. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Earth. The name meant nothing to Tae-min, just another species with guns pointed at his people. But they had nowhere left to run. The fuel was gone. The supplies were gone. All that remained was to face whatever came next. Power down all weapons, he ordered. Broadcast surrender on all frequencies. As the strange ships closed in around them, Tae-min wondered if they had survived the Dominion only to die at the hands of an unknown species in an unknown system. Bora appeared beside him again, taking his hand. She still didn't speak, but she held on tight. Whatever happened next, at least they would face it together. Commander Ji-won studied the strange ships through her view screen with growing confusion. Her squadron had been patrolling the outer system when the unidentified vessels appeared out of nowhere. Protocol demanded she treat them as potential threats until proven otherwise. Pirates had been getting bolder lately, and there were rumors of Dominion scout ships testing Earth's defenses. But these ships didn't look like warships. They looked like they were falling apart. Ma'am, I'm picking up massive energy fluctuations from the lead vessel, her tactical officer reported. Their power systems are failing. Life signs? Scanning now. Ma'am, I'm reading thousands of life forms across all vessels. These aren't military ships. They're civilian transports. Ji-won leaned forward in her chair. Hail them again. All languages. The communications officer worked her console. No response to standard greetings. Wait, they're broadcasting something on multiple frequencies. It's not any language in our database, but the pattern suggests, ma'am, I think they're surrendering. Surrendering. They haven't done anything hostile. Their weapons are powering down. All of them. They're just sitting there. Ji-won made a decision. Send a boarding team, but peacekeepers only, no Marines. Have medical standing by. Something's not right here. 20 minutes later, her headset crackled with the voice of her boarding team leader. Commander, you need to see this. These people, they're in bad shape. Really bad. Explain. They're refugees, ma'am. Ships falling apart. People are sick and starving. There are children here. Lots of children. Ji-won felt her stomach drop. Get medical teams over there immediately. I'm coming aboard. She took a shuttle to the largest refugee vessel, and what she saw made her throat tight. The corridors were packed with people, all of them thin and exhausted. They pressed against the walls as her team moved through, eyes wide with fear. Some were clearly sick, lying on makeshift beds. Others tried to shield children behind them. A young male alien stood waiting near what looked like the bridge. He wore a uniform that might have been official once, but now it was stained and torn. He held a small device and spoke into it, and after a moment, a mechanical voice translated his words into English. "Please," the translation said, "don't hurt us. We have nothing. We are no threat, please." Jiwan raised her hands slowly, trying to appear non-threatening. "We're not here to hurt anyone. My name is Commander Jiwan. I'm with Earth Defense. Can you tell me what happened?" The alien spoke again, and the translation came through choppy and uncertain. "Home, destroyed Dominion. Killed our world. 3 months running, no home. Everyone says go away. Please, just let us die in peace. No more running. No one's dying today," G1 said firmly. She activated her comm. "Get me fleet command, now." Back on her ship, G1 stood in her ready room with her senior officers. On the view screen was Admiral Hansel, commander of the Sol Defense Fleet. "Let me be clear on this, Commander," the Admiral said. "You found a refugee fleet from a species we've never encountered, fleeing something called the Dominion, which we also know nothing about." "Yes, sir. 43 ships, about 15,000 individuals. They're in critical condition. Life support failing, medical supplies exhausted, food running out. And they just happened to find Earth? I don't think it was intentional, sir. From what we've been able to translate, they were looking for any uninhabited system. They had no idea we were here." A woman appeared on another part of the screen. "This is Deho from Xenolinguistics. Commander, I've been analyzing the data you sent. Their language is completely new, but I'm making progress. With your permission, I'd like to board their ship and establish direct communication." "Granted," Jiwan said, "but we need to make a decision quickly. These people need help now." Admiral Hansel was quiet for a moment. "The Defense Council will want to turn them away. We don't know anything about them or this Dominion. Getting involved could bring trouble to Earth. With respect, sir, they're dying. We can't just ignore that." "I understand, Commander, but..." The transmission was interrupted by another voice. "This is Captain Minho of the medical frigate Hippocrates. I'm already en route to Commander G1's position with full medical teams and supplies. You can court-martial me later, Admiral." G1 felt a surge of gratitude. Captain Minho was a legend in the fleet, a veteran who had been there during Earth's last war when humanity nearly destroyed itself. He was also known for never following orders he considered immoral. Admiral Hansel sighed. "Captain, you're making my life very difficult." "I've heard that before, sir. These people need help and I'm giving it. Anyone who wants to stop me can file a complaint after I'm done saving lives." Jiwan watched the Admiral's face carefully. She knew Hansel had also lived through the last war. He knew what it meant to lose everything. "Fine," the Admiral said finally. "Provide emergency assistance. But this situation goes to the Defense Council within the hour. No permanent commitments until we know what we're dealing with." Over the next hours, human medical teams swarmed through the refugee ships. Jiwan watched as her people worked alongside the aliens, using translation devices to communicate basic medical needs. The refugees seemed stunned by the help they were receiving. Deho made remarkable progress with the language. By evening, he had established basic communication with the young navigator whose name was Taemin. Jiwan sat across from Taemin in a small conference room aboard her ship. Deho acted as translator, though the device was getting better with each conversation. "Tell me what happened to your people," Jiwan said gently. Through Deho and the device, Taemin's story emerged. His homeworld destroyed. 2 billion dead. The Galactic Council declaring his people non-protected entities, which apparently meant anyone could kill them legally. 3 months of running, of being rejected by every civilized system, of watching people die slowly from radiation and starvation. "The Dominion," Taemin said, and even through translation, Jiwan heard the fear in his voice. "They are coming. They always come. They will find us here and they will kill us, and they will kill you too for helping us. You should make us leave. Save yourselves." "How long until they find you?" "Days, maybe weeks. They are hunting us. They want to make sure we are all dead, so other species will be too afraid to resist them." Jiwan looked at Deho, who looked just as disturbed as she felt. "What's the Dominion? What are we dealing with?" From what I understand, Deho said, it's a coalition of species that controls most of the galaxy. They enforce strict hierarchy based on what they consider genetic worth. Species they consider inferior don't get rights. The Keltharians apparently fell into that category. That's insane. That's genocide, Deho corrected quietly. A small alien child wandered into the room, looking lost. She was tiny, with large eyes that looked too sad for someone so young. She saw Taemin and ran to him, burying her face against his side. Taemin spoke softly to her, but she didn't respond. He looked at Jiwon apologetically. Bora, she doesn't speak. Not since, he gestured helplessly. Jiwon knelt down slowly, making herself less threatening. Hey Bora, my name is Jiwon. You're safe here, okay? We're going to help you. The child looked at her with those enormous eyes and then asked in halting, broken English, Will you hurt us too? The room went silent. Jiwon felt like someone had punched her in the chest. No, she said, her voice thick. No, sweetheart. We won't hurt you. I promise. Bora studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly and returned to hiding behind Taemin. Jiwon stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the refugee ships. Behind her, she heard Deho speaking quietly with Taemin, explaining about Earth's history. The wars, the genocides, the refugees, and the oath they had taken after the last war. When they finally learned the cost of looking away, she activated her comm. Admiral Hansel, this is Commander Jiwon. I'm making an official recommendation. Go ahead, Commander. We grant them asylum. All of them. Full protection under Earth law. The Defense Council can vote however they want. But I've made my decision. These people are under my protection, and I'm not turning them away. You can court-martial me too if you want. There was a long pause. Then the Admiral's voice came back, and she heard something like pride in it. The Defense Council meeting is in 10 minutes. I'll let them know Earth Defense Patrol has already committed to protecting these refugees. They can either support us or explain to the public why they want to abandon dying children. Thank you, sir. Jiwon turned back to Taemin. Your people need rest, medical care, food, and safety. We're going to provide all of that. And if this Dominion comes looking for you, they'll have to go through us first. Taemin stared at her like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Why? Why would you risk everything for strangers? Jiwon thought about the little girl who had learned to ask if people would hurt her. She thought about Earth's own history of refugees and the lessons learned in Blood and Fire. Because we've been where you are, she said simply. And we swore we'd never look away again. Titan Station orbited Saturn like a small moon, its massive ring structure gleaming in the light of the distant sun. It had been built to process asteroid miners and deep space crews, but now it served a different purpose. The Keltharian refugee fleet docked one ship at a time, each one immediately swarmed by human workers who moved with startling efficiency. Hyejin walked through the medical bay in a daze. She had been working for 3 days straight, but she couldn't stop. There was too much to process, too much to understand. The humans had equipment she had only dreamed about. Medicine that worked miracles. Doctors who treated her patients with genuine care and never once asked about payment or compensation. Human doctor named Minho found her standing motionless in front of a regeneration pod where a young Keltharian boy was being treated for radiation damage. The boy would live. 2 days ago, she had been certain he would die. You need to rest, Minho said gently in accented but understandable Keltarian. The translation devices were getting better every hour. I don't understand, Hyejin said, not taking her eyes off the pod. Why are you doing this? We have nothing to give you. No trade, no resources, no technology you don't already have. You're spending millions on us and we're just refugees. Minho was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out a small photograph from his pocket. It showed a much younger version of himself standing with a group of children in what looked like a refugee camp. 20 years ago, there was a war on Earth. My country was destroyed. I was 12 years old, alone, starving. My family was dead. I walked for weeks trying to find safety, and every border I reached, they turned me away. Too many refugees, they said. Not enough resources. Go somewhere else. He paused, his voice becoming rough. I almost died. Would have died. But then I reached a country that didn't turn me away. They took me in, fed me, educated me, gave me a future. And I swore that if I ever had the chance, I would do the same for someone else. Hyejin finally looked at him. And your people?
They all think like you?
Not all. Some wanted to turn you away, but enough of us remember what it's like to be helpless. Enough of us meant it when we swore never again. In another part of the station, Taemin stood in an observation room staring at Earth. The blue and white planet hung in space like a jewel. He had been studying human history through the station's database, and what he learned both horrified and amazed him. These humans had nearly destroyed themselves. Wars that killed millions, genocides that targeted entire peoples, environmental damage that almost made their planet uninhabitable. They had done terrible things to each other, things that made the Dominion's cruelty seem almost calculated by comparison. Human cruelty had often been passionate and senseless, but then something had changed. After their last war, when they stared into the abyss they had created, humanity had made a choice. They decided to be better. They created global laws protecting refugees, established the Terran Accord that guaranteed basic rights to all sentient beings, and most importantly, they actually followed those laws. "Beautiful, isn't it?" asked a voice behind him. Taemin turned to find a human woman in an official uniform. Her name tag read Ambassador Kyung. "Your world," Taemin said carefully. "It's incredible." "It's home," Kyung said. "And we'd like to offer your people a home too. Governor Subin has mining colonies in the Kuiper Belt. They're heavily fortified, self-sufficient, and they have room for all of you. It's not a planet, but it's safe. You would give us an entire colony? We'd share a colony with you. Humans and Keltharians living together, learning from each other. If that's acceptable to your people." Taemin felt tears building behind his eyes. "Acceptable? Ambassador, we thought we were going to die in space. You've given us more than we ever dreamed possible." Kyung's expression darkened. "There's something else you need to know. I received a message from the Dominion this morning." Taemin's blood went cold. "They found us." "Yes. They're demanding we surrender all Keltharian refugees within 48 hours. If we refuse, they threaten economic sanctions and potential military action. The Galactic Council has voted unanimously to support their demand. Then, you have to give us up. We won't let you go to war for us." "That's not your decision to make," Kyung said firmly. "Earth's government has already sent our response. We've granted full citizenship to all Keltharian refugees under the Terran Accord. Any act of aggression against you is now legally an act of war against humanity." Taemin stared at her in shock. "You can't mean that. The Dominion has 12 species, thousands of ships. Earth is one planet. One planet that has survived worse odds," Kyung said. "We're not going to let bullies dictate our moral choices. Your people are under our protection now, and that protection isn't conditional." The news spread through the refugee community within hours. The reactions were mixed. Some Keltharians were grateful beyond words. Others were horrified that humanity would risk so much. And some, like Taemin, felt a confusing mixture of both. He found Hyejin in the medical bay. "Did you hear?" "The entire station heard," she said. "The humans are preparing for war. For us, this is wrong. We can't let them do this. How do we stop them? They've made their choice." In a secure conference room, Governor Subin met with Keltharian leaders and human military officers. Subin was a practical woman who had spent 30 years building mining operations in the most hostile environments. She didn't waste words. "The Dominion fleet will reach Sol System in approximately 72 hours, she said. "Intelligence suggests a hunter-killer pack, at least 6 capital ships. They're expecting us to back down, will we?" asked one of the Keltharian elders. "No," said Admiral Hansel flatly. "Earth doesn't negotiate with terrorists, and that's essentially what the Dominion is. They're using military threats to enforce genocide." A young human officer named Mirai spoke up. "We need to relocate the refugee population immediately. My team has been running simulations. If fighting breaks out, Titan Station is too exposed." "Agreed," Subin said. "I'm moving everyone to Colony Site 7 in the Kuiper Belt. It's deep in the asteroid field, heavily shielded and defensible. We can have everyone relocated within 24 hours. Taemin raised his hand hesitantly. "Excuse me, but you're talking about defending us. What about us defending ourselves? My people, we've been peaceful for centuries, but we're not helpless." Mirai looked at him with interest. "You want to fight?" "I want to help. We're not going to hide while you die for us. Have any of your people had military training?" "No, but we're fast learners." Mirai glanced at Admiral Hansel, who nodded slowly. "All right. I can give you a crash course in defensive systems. Can't make you into soldiers in 3 days, but I can teach you enough to man shield stations and support systems." Over the next 2 days, everything moved at incredible speed. The Keltharian refugees were relocated to the Kuiper Belt colony, where they found themselves in a massive underground complex carved into an asteroid. It was cold and industrial, but it was safe. Human workers had been preparing for weeks, setting up living quarters, schools, medical facilities. Bora, the little girl who barely spoke, found herself in a classroom with human children. The teacher spoke both languages now, and the human kids shared their supplies without hesitation. Meanwhile, Taemin and a group of young Keltharian volunteers went through the most intense training of their lives. Mirai was a demanding but effective teacher. She taught them how to operate defensive shields, how to manage power distribution during combat, how to identify threats and coordinate with human crews. "Your people have incredibly fast reaction times," Mirai told Taemin after a simulation, "and your spatial reasoning is off the charts. You see patterns we miss." "We were navigators," Taemin explained. "Our whole culture developed around reading stars and understanding three-dimensional movement. It's why we were good at space travel. It's also why you'll be good at tactical support. Don't sell yourself short." On the third day, long-range sensors detected the Dominion fleet. 6 massive warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They entered the Sol system with weapons charged and shields at maximum. A transmission came through to Earth Defense Command. The Dominion commander's voice was arrogant and certain. "This is Fleet Commander Vosh of the Dominion. We are here to collect the criminal Keltharian refugees you harbor. Surrender them immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Hansel sent a reply that would echo through the galaxy. "This is Admiral Hansel of Earth Defense. The individuals you call criminals are citizens of the Terran Accord. They are under our protection. If you wish to discuss asylum procedures through proper diplomatic channels, we're happy to talk. If you've come for war, you'll find we don't back down from bullies." There was a long silence. Then, "You would risk everything for these worthless creatures?" Hansel's response was immediate. "We don't measure worth the way you do. And yes, we would. Every human ship in this system is prepared to defend our new citizens. Leave peacefully or test our resolve." Another silence. Then the Dominion fleet began moving into attack positions. Throughout Sol system, human ships formed defensive lines. Ancient satellites powered up weapon systems that had been dormant for years. Marine battalions loaded into dropships, medical facilities prepared for casualties. And in the Kuiper Belt colony, Taemin stood at a defensive console, his hands shaking slightly. Beside him, Hyejin had volunteered to work as a medical coordinator. Bora held her hand tightly. "Are you scared?" Hyejin asked him. "Terrified," Taemin admitted, "but also grateful." "Is that strange?" "No, I feel the same way." Across all human communication channels, a message broadcast. It was simple, only 3 words, but those words carried the weight of humanity's promise. "You're safe now." The standoff lasted 36 hours. The Dominion fleet held position at the edge of Mars' orbit, weapons charged but not firing. The human defensive fleet formed a wall between them and Earth, every ship ready for battle. Neither side moved. Admiral Hansel stood on the bridge of the Sol defense flagship, monitoring dozens of screens showing ship positions, weapon status, and diplomatic communications. The Dominion kept sending ultimatums. Earth kept refusing. It was a test of wills, and Hansel had no intention of blinking first. "Admiral," his communications officer said, "we're receiving another message from the Dominion commander. Put it through." The voice that came through was incredulous, almost confused. "Admiral Hansel, I don't understand your species. You have 1 planet. We represent 12 civilizations with hundreds of worlds. You cannot possibly believe you can win this confrontation." "Commander Vosh," Hansel replied calmly, "I don't think you understand humans. We're not trying to win, we're just not losing. There's a difference. That makes no sense. Let me explain it simply. You want us to hand over refugees? We won't. You can try to take them by force, but you'll have to go through every ship we have. We've positioned our defensive grid to make any attack route a death trap. You might eventually break through, but you'll lose at least half your fleet doing it. Maybe more. Is that worth it to you?" There was a long pause. "You would sacrifice your civilization to protect refugees?" "We're not sacrificing anything. We're standing up for what's right. That's not a sacrifice. That's who we are." The transmission cut off. Hansel allowed himself a small smile. The Dominion commander was starting to realize that humans were willing to follow through on their promises, no matter the cost. In the Kuiper Belt colony, life continued in a strange state of tension. The Keltharians tried to maintain normal routines while knowing that battle could break out at any moment. Human workers moved among them, showing no fear or resentment, just determination. Yuna, a Keltharian engineer, spent her days helping repair and upgrade the colony's systems. She had a gift for understanding complex technology, and the human engineers appreciated her input. During a break, she accessed the colony's database and started researching Keltharian history. What she found shocked her. She brought her discovery to Taemin and Heejin in the command center where they were monitoring the standoff. "I found something," Yuna said, her voice shaking slightly. "In the old archives, the ones that were saved from our homeworld." "What is it?" Taemin asked. "Our people weren't always peaceful. 10,000 years ago, we were warriors, fierce ones. We had a massive civil war that nearly destroyed our entire species. After that, we chose pacifism as a way of life. We swore never to fight again." Heejin frowned. "Why is this important now?" "Because we've been wrong," Yuna said intensely. "Our ancestors didn't choose pacifism out of weakness. They chose it as a way to heal from war, but they never said we should let ourselves be slaughtered. There's a difference between choosing peace and accepting genocide." Taemin felt something shift inside him. "You're saying we should have fought back." "I'm saying we should fight now. Not for revenge, but for survival. The humans are risking everything for us. The least we can do is stand with them." Word of Yuna's discovery spread through the Keltharian community. It sparked intense debates. Some felt they should maintain their pacifist traditions. Others felt that tradition had led them to near extinction. The arguments continued late into the night. It was Bora who changed everything. The little girl who barely spoke stood up in the middle of a community gathering. Everyone fell silent, shocked that she was about to speak. "The humans protect us," she said in her small voice. "Why don't we protect them too? They're our family now." The simplicity of her logic was undeniable. A 6-year-old child had cut through centuries of philosophy with one obvious truth. After that, more Keltharians volunteered for training. Mirai and her team worked around the clock, teaching defensive systems, shield management, damage control. The Keltharians absorbed everything with desperate intensity. "You're naturals at this," Mirai told Taemin after another simulation. "Your people have incredible spatial awareness. You can track multiple targets simultaneously better than most human crews." "Maybe it's because we spent so long studying stars," Taemin said. "We learned to see everything as part of a connected system. Whatever it is, it's impressive." A human Marine sergeant named Jiho was running evacuation drills with Keltharian families. He approached each drill with the same seriousness as combat training, making sure every adult and child knew exactly what to do if the colony came under attack. During one drill, an elderly Keltharian woman asked him, "Do you really think we can survive if they attack?" Jiho smiled confidently. "Ma'am, this colony is built into a solid asteroid with 20 meters of rock and metal between you and space. We have shields that can stop a nuke, and we have every intention of making sure no Dominion ship gets anywhere near you. You're safe. But what if? No what ifs," Jiho said firmly but kindly. "We don't leave anyone behind. That's not just words. That's a promise every human in this system is keeping." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Why? We're not even your species." "Maybe that's exactly why it matters," Jiho said. "Anyone can protect their own. It takes something special to protect strangers." Back in orbit, the diplomatic situation was changing. Ambassador Kyung received surprising news from her intelligence network. 3 species within the Dominion coalition were having serious disagreements about the operation. "The Ventari delegation has formally protested," Kyung told Admiral Hansel. "They're saying that attacking refugees and their protectors goes against their cultural values. 2 other species are expressing similar concerns, so there are cracks in the coalition. Big ones. Commander Vosh is under pressure from multiple governments. Some want him to press the attack. Others want him to withdraw and avoid the political fallout. Then we keep the pressure on. Show them we're not backing down." Hansel sent another message to the Dominion fleet, but this time it was broadcast on open channels where other species could hear it. "Commander Vosh, I want to make something clear to you and to anyone else listening. Earth didn't seek this confrontation. We simply offered help to people who needed it. That's not an act of war. That's an act of basic decency. If your coalition attacks us for showing mercy to refugees, then you're not the civilized alliance you claim to be. You're just bullies with big ships. The message resonated across the galaxy. Within hours, protests broke out on several Dominion worlds. Citizens questioned why their governments were threatening war over refugees. The Ventari government formally withdrew its ships from Commander Vosh's fleet. That left 5 ships, still overwhelming odds, but no longer the united front the Dominion had presented. Commander Vosh sent a private message to Admiral Hansel. "You're making this very difficult, Admiral. My government demands action, but several allied governments are threatening to leave the coalition if we attack. You've put me in an impossible position." "I didn't put you anywhere," Hansel replied. "You chose to come here and threaten innocent people. You can choose to leave the same way you came." "It's not that simple. The Keltharians are classified as non-protected entities. If we allow them to find sanctuary, it sets a precedent that threatens the entire Dominion hierarchy. Then maybe your hierarchy needs to be threatened. Just a thought." 2 hours later, Commander Vosh issued a final ultimatum. The transmission was broadcast on all channels, clearly meant for domestic political consumption as much as for Earth. "Admiral Hansel, Earth government. You have 1 hour to comply with Dominion law and surrender the Keltharian refugees. Failure to comply will result in military action. This is your final warning." The message ended. The countdown began. In the command center, Hansel looked at his senior officers. "Final status check. I want to know we're ready for this." Each officer reported in turn. Every system was operational. Every ship was in position. Every crew was prepared. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "we're outnumbered 5 to 1. If they commit to attack, we'll take heavy losses." "I know," Hansel said. "But we'll make them pay for every meter they advance, and we'll buy enough time for the civilians to escape if we need to." At the 30-minute mark, something unexpected happened. One of the Dominion ships broke formation and began moving away from the fleet. "What's going on?" Hansel demanded. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from that ship. They're defecting. The crew is refusing to fire on refugees." Within minutes, 2 more Dominion ships turned away. Their crews broadcast messages explaining that they would not participate in what they considered an immoral action. Commander Vosh was left with only 2 ships. The hour expired. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then weapons fire lit up the space between the fleets. The battle had begun, but it wasn't the overwhelming assault the Dominion had planned. It was desperate and uncoordinated. The attack of a commander who had lost control of his fleet and was trying to salvage something from a failed mission. Human ships returned fire with precise, calculated strikes. They aimed to disable rather than destroy, targeting weapons and engines. When Dominion escape pods launched, human rescue ships moved to collect them. In the colony, Taman sat at his defensive console, his hands steady now. He coordinated shield frequencies and power distribution for the human ships, his spatial awareness helping them maintain optimal defensive positions. Beside him, other Keltharian volunteers did the same. They couldn't fight on the front lines, but they could support those who did. After 18 hours, it was over. The 2 attacking Dominion ships were disabled and drifting. Commander Vosh broadcast his surrender. Not a single human ship was lost. Not a single Keltharian refugee harmed. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as Earth offered rescue and medical care, even to the crews that had attacked them. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Timon stood in the observation dome of New Keltharia and watched construction crews work on the central plaza. The colony had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What started as a refuge carved into an asteroid had become something much more beautiful. Human and Keltharian architects had worked together to design a city that honored both cultures. There were open spaces that reminded Keltharians of their lost homeworld, and enclosed gardens that felt like Earth. The technology was human, but the aesthetic was a blend of both peoples. "It's starting to look like home," Yijin said, joining him at the window. "It is home," Taman corrected. "Maybe not the home we were born to, but the one we chose. The one we built together." The aftermath of the battle had shocked the galaxy. When images spread of human ships rescuing Dominion crews from their destroyed vessels, offering medical care to the same soldiers who had attacked them, it created a diplomatic earthquake. The 3 Dominion species whose ships had refused to fight formally apologized to Earth and offered reparations. More surprisingly, they offered reparations to the Keltharians as well. acknowledging their complicity in genocide through inaction. The Galactic Council, facing massive public pressure, reversed their classification of Keltharians as non-protected entities and issued a formal apology. They invited Earth to join as a full member, though with typical political calculation, they also requested that Earth moderate its aggressive humanitarian tendencies. Earth's response had been diplomatic but firm. They would join the Council, but only after the Council passed reforms protecting refugee rights and establishing consequences for genocide. The reforms passed within a month. Now, 6 months later, the galaxy was adjusting to a new reality. Earth had become an unexpected power broker, not through military might but through moral authority. And the Keltharians had become symbols of survival and integration. Taemin worked as cultural liaison officer now, helping other refugee species who had started arriving at Earth seeking the same protection. He had learned that the Keltharians weren't the only ones fleeing persecution. The galaxy had many forgotten peoples, and Earth seemed determined to remember all of them. In the medical center, Hyejin coordinated a research team that included both human and Keltharian doctors. They were developing new treatments by combining human medical technology with Keltharian biological knowledge. The results were remarkable. Treatments that took weeks now took days. Diseases that were fatal were becoming curable. "We make a good team," Dr. Minho told her as they reviewed their latest research. "Your people see biological systems in ways we never considered, and our technology gives you tools to act on those insights." "It's more than that," Hyejin said. "We're learning to think like each other. That's the real breakthrough." In the colony school, Bora sat in a classroom with children from 3 different species. She was fluent in Korean, English, and Keltharian now, switching between them effortlessly. Her teacher was human. Her best friend was a Keltharian girl her age, and she had started drawing pictures again. But now her pictures showed something different. Instead of a lonely planet with 2 suns, she drew crowded spaces full of different people all together. When asked about it, she simply said, "This is what home looks like." A human architect named Junho worked with Keltharian designers on expanding the colony. They were planning residential districts, commercial centers, parks, and educational facilities. Every design incorporated elements from both cultures. The challenge, Junho explained to a group of colonists, is creating spaces that feel familiar to everyone while being unique to no one. "We're not building a human city with Keltharian visitors. We're building our city, all of us together." The concept of shared space, shared culture, shared future was revolutionary to many Keltharians. They had been refugees for so long that the idea of belonging somewhere again felt almost dangerous to believe. But humans made it real through 1,000 small actions. They learned Keltharian languages and customs. They celebrated Keltharian holidays alongside their own. They treated Keltharian children the same as human children, with the same expectations and the same opportunities. One evening, Taemin attended a council meeting where a significant announcement was about to be made. A human representative named Nari stood before both human and Keltharian leaders. "We're proposing something new," Nari said. "A formal alliance called the Sanctuary Compact. It would be a mutual defense treaty where humanity and the Keltharian people pledge to protect all refugee peoples who seek our help, not just with words but with action." "You want to make what you did for us into official policy?" asked a Keltharian elder. "We want to make sure it happens for everyone who needs it," Nari clarified. "The galaxy has too many forgotten peoples, too many species that fall through the cracks. We have the resources and the will to change that. Together, we can create a real alternative to the Dominion's hierarchy." The proposal passed unanimously. Within weeks, the Sanctuary Compact became official policy. Other species began requesting membership, wanting to join this new alliance based on mutual protection rather than domination. Yuna, the engineer who had discovered their warrior heritage, had found a way to honor both aspects of Keltharian culture. She helped establish defense training that taught both protection and restraint. It wasn't about conquest or revenge. It was about ensuring they would never be helpless victims again. "Our ancestors chose pacifism after seeing the horror of war," she explained to new trainees, "but they never meant for us to accept slaughter. There's a difference between refusing to fight and refusing to defend. We're learning that difference now." Human instructors like Mirai worked alongside Keltharian teachers, creating a synthesis of both people's values. The resulting training produced defenders who were competent but careful, strong but measured. You fight to protect, not to destroy, Mireille told her mixed species class. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. One afternoon, Admiral Hansel visited New Keltheria for the formal unveiling of the colony's central monument. Thousands of humans and Keltharians gathered in the plaza, which was still under construction but functional enough for the ceremony. The monument was a sculpture showing a human and a Keltharian reaching toward each other. Not quite touching, but close enough that the gesture was clear. The design was intentionally ambiguous about who was helping whom. It could be the human offering support, or the Keltharian offering friendship. Both interpretations were correct. At the base of the sculpture, an inscription was carved in both languages. Taman had helped write it, working with human poets to capture the exact meaning. We were exiled and alone. We found humanity. They spoke an oath we'll never forget. You're safe now. Today we stand together and we extend that same oath to all who suffer. You are not alone. You are not abandoned. You're safe now. Below that, a second inscription carried the promise that had changed everything. Never again will we look away. Admiral Hansel stood before the crowd to speak. 6 months ago, a fleet of desperate refugees appeared in our system. They expected nothing and asked for nothing. They just wanted to die in peace rather than in pain. What they got instead was sanctuary, citizenship, and family. He paused, looking at the mixed crowd before him. Some people have asked me if defending the Keltharians was worth the risk. They point out that we could have avoided conflict by turning them away. They're right. We could have. But we would have paid a much higher price. We would have paid with our souls. The crowd was silent, listening intently. Humanity learned hard lessons in our history. We learned what happens when good people look away from suffering. We learned that safety bought with cruelty is no safety at all. And we learned that the only way to honor our past is to be better in our present. He gestured to the monument. This sculpture doesn't show charity. It shows partnership. Because that's what we've built here. Not humans helping refugees, but two peoples helping each other become something neither of us could be alone. After the ceremony, Taman found himself standing with Hyejin, Bora, and several human friends. They watched the twin moons rising over the colony, their light reflecting off the still-growing city. Do you miss it? Hyejin asked quietly. Our homeworld. Taman thought about it carefully. I miss what it represented, stability, belonging, but I don't miss it the way I thought I would. Why not? Because I found something better. A homeworld is just a place. This, he gestured at the colony, at the mixed crowd celebrating together, at the children playing without regard for which species they belong to. This is a home. Bora tugged on his sleeve.
Taman, can we go to the park tomorrow?
The new one with the earth trees and Keltharian flowers? Of course. Can Junho come too? He promised to teach me how to design buildings. I don't see why not. The little girl who once asked if people would hurt her now moved through her world with confidence and joy. She had friends from multiple species. She had mentors who believed in her. She had a future. That night, as New Keltharia's lights twinkled against the darkness of space, a ship approached the colony. It carried refugees from another persecuted species, one that had heard about Earth and the Sanctuary Compact. They came seeking the same thing the Keltharians had sought months before: safety, hope, home. Tai Min was part of the greeting committee that welcomed them. He recognized the fear and exhaustion in their eyes because he had felt the same thing. He knew the desperate hope that someone, somewhere, might help. He spoke to them through a translator, using words he had learned from humans. Words that had changed his life. Welcome to New Keltheria. Welcome to the Sanctuary Compact. Welcome home. He paused, then added the most important words, the words that meant everything. You're safe now. The refugees stared at him in disbelief, just as he had stared at Commander Ji-Wan all those months ago. They didn't believe it yet. That was okay. They would learn just as he had learned. In time, they would understand that these weren't just words. This was a promise that an entire civilization had chosen to keep, no matter the cost. As Timon guided the new arrivals toward processing, he looked back at the monument in the central plaza, the human and Keltharian reaching toward each other, forever frozen in that moment of connection. That sculpture told a story, not just about the past, about a refugee fleet that had found sanctuary in an unexpected place, but about the future, about what different peoples could build when they chose to see each other as family rather than strangers. The galaxy was watching New Caltheria now, watching to see if this experiment in integration could really work, watching to see if humans and Caltharians could truly become one people, while honoring what made them different. Taemin smiled. Let them watch. They would see something the galaxy had forgotten was possible. They would see hope made real. They would see the future built on compassion rather than hierarchy. They would see that the strongest civilizations weren't the ones with the biggest weapons, but the ones with the biggest hearts. And maybe, just maybe, they would learn the lesson that humanity had learned through blood and fire. Never again would they look away. Above New Caltheria, Earth's sun rose over the horizon, painting the colony in gold and silver light. It was the dawn of something new, something unprecedented in galactic history. Two species, once strangers, now family, and their doors were open to anyone else who needed refuge. The galaxy would never be the same.